Hello and welcome to those that are here early with us. We're just opening up the webinar room for people to get comfortable and join us this evening. We'll be starting right at 7 o'clock. So in the meantime, feel free to make yourself comfortable. Sometimes we recommend that Chrome is the best browser. So if you're using that one, great. If not, you can take this time to switch. But if you do have any difficulties watching tonight, there is a refresh button available if you lose your signal. So we will get started here in about 9 minutes. Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us early. We are just letting the webinar room open and letting people get comfortable. We will be getting started here right at 7 o'clock. So in the meantime, you can say hello in the chat. Let us know where you're tuning in from. If you are using an internet browser, usually Chrome is the best, but if not, there is a refresh button available on your screen at any point you lose your signal. We are recording the presentation tonight, so a full replay will be sent. And just make yourself comfortable. We'll be getting started here in about 7 minutes. Thank you. Good evening. Hello, everyone. I see a few people are tuning in here from Kelowna, a few from Calgary. Welcome. Thank you for coming. We just have the webinar room letting people get situated and comfortable. We will be starting the event right at 7 o'clock this evening. So in the meantime, feel free to make yourself cozy and comfy, and we will be getting started here in about 4 minutes. Thank you. Good evening and welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We are going to be starting the presentation here at 7 o'clock. So in the meantime, you're welcome to just get comfortable. I recommend using the Chrome browser. If you're not using Chrome, you should still be fine, but just in case, there is a refresh button available if you lose your signal. And a recording of the presentation will be emailed out to everybody tomorrow. So feel free to get comfy, ask any questions throughout the presentation you may have in the chat, and we'll be getting started here in a couple minutes. Thank you. All right, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for this wellness talk about how we can use medicinal mushrooms for maintaining your immune response. Tonight we have Jerry Angelini, and with him we are going to learn how we can use mushrooms for optimal support against common colds, flus, infections, and maintaining a strong and balanced immune response system. So my name is Haley Giddens, and I run our corporate events program at Nature's Fair Markets. Thank you for being here with us this evening, and thank you to Host Defense Mushrooms, who's our partner for this event. The presentation will be about 45 minutes, and the microphones will remain muted for the attendees. But if you have any questions, we encourage you to submit them in the Q&A box and the chat box, and our team will be flagging them as we go for Jerry to do some Q&A at the end. A recording of the presentation will be sent by email, along with a thank you coupon from Host Defense for your participation. Now, before I hand it over to Jerry, I'd like to give you a bit of information on his background. He is an integrative practitioner with training and experience in psychiatric and chronic illness rehabilitation, and is the Host Defense Education Director. His undergraduate and graduate degrees are from Boston University and form the foundation of his conventional medical training, which is augmented by TCM, herbalism, Ayurveda, and Western clinical herbalism. Thank you so much for being here with us tonight, Jerry. We're very much looking forward to learning from your expertise.
Thank you, Haley. It's great to be here.
Yeah, a little different. We're not in store, but
I know, right? It's unfortunate, but I guess this is the new normal for at least another 6 months. So it is nice to have everyone here and people who created some time in their evening to come and join us for the lecture. We do like to just start off with a quick reminder that we don't make any claims regarding diagnosing, treating, preventing, or curing any illness or disease, but we do provide people with a lot of great educational background information so that you can maybe make some more informed decisions on supporting your health and wellness. So yeah, and if you do have a particular health concern going on, we strongly recommend that you work with a qualified integrative healthcare practitioner. All right, let's just jump into things. So what we're going to cover tonight is we're going to do a quick overview of the human immune response. We're going to talk about some of the mechanisms within the immune system that specifically target pathogens. We're also going to talk about a changing paradigm around immunity from stimulation to modulation. We're going to look at some research on mushrooms and how they impact various aspects of our health. And then we're going to talk about some of the products at Host Defense and the mushrooms to see if there's one there that you would find particularly helpful for yourself. All right. So we're going to start here with the immune system so that you can better understand how mushrooms can be impactful to it. And when we take a look at this chart, like there's, wow, okay, we're going to start off and jump right into this, right? There are a number of aspects associated with the immune response. And by its very nature, the immune response creates a process of inflammation when it's engaged, right? So any inflammation anywhere in the body is mediated by the immune response. And it's actually an aspect of the healing process. So inflammatory response is important, but control is really the key. Like we need to control it. And this is where it all starts here. That's why we put a green star there with a big box that says where it all starts, right? And this is the presence of an infection or maybe an injury. And when our immune cells identify these things, the immune system kicks into gear and it engages. The orange star, this whole orange piece here, is the immune system when it's hard at work. And it can create many of the feelings that we have when we're under the weather, right? And this is inclusive of your physical feelings like fever or inflammation or achiness or loss of appetite or swelling. But it can also be the emotional feelings that we have, like lethargy, a desire to isolate, anxiety or agitation. And then as the immune system completes its task, it has to clean up too, right? So this is that clean up and calm down phase. And this is how the modulatory, anti-inflammatory, and you might be able to see it if that picture is large enough for you, processes of the immune system kick in. So modulation reduces inflammation and brings the system back into a state of alert yet watchful waiting. And you can see that there are steps But it's not a linear process, right? Because oftentimes we're going back and forth between, recognition of more pathogens, or maybe there's some more injury, and so there's more immune cells recruited. But then, like the modulatory activities kick in to kind of keep a lid on it, and this is really a critical process, right? So the immune system is kind of going back and forth, and there's these feedback loops. And in order for us to really thrive, we need to be able to turn on and turn off this response rather rapidly. We don't want an immune system that reacts or over engages to anything. That's not ideal, right? So for the average person, and even those of us that aren't so average, right, the modulation of the immune response is really the best goal, especially if you're thinking about, should I stimulate the immune system or should I modulate the immune system? We would definitely want modulation. And supporting a balanced immune response is a key to day-to-day health and wellness, right? So it's not just about making sure that the immune cells are engaged and strong, but making sure they don't overreact. And an overreactive immune system is really problematic, and many people are aware of this, right? They may be autoimmune conditions that they're familiar with, or even allergic reactivity, right? And so from this perspective, we want you to kind of consider this as like, am I going to walk into my house and turn on every single electrical appliance at once? Probably not. Like, most often not. You're going to turn on selective lights, and you want the temperature at the right set point. And but you also don't want to walk into a completely cold and dark house and keep it that way. So really, this concept of modulation, of getting just the right amount of immune response, is critical. And even when we are fighting infections, if we stimulate the immune system too much, then immune cells can send these signaling molecules called cytokines cascading throughout our bodies. And many of you are familiar with the term cytokine because of all of the discussion of cytokine storms in the media lately, right? Cytokines can be both inflammatory, which do make us feel worse, right? But they can also be anti-inflammatory, depending upon the cytokine. So helping the immune system work strongly, making sure the right signals are being sent so that you have a strong yet flexible and responsive immune system is what we're kind of going for. All right. Okay, so this didn't... Well, let me show you how it works, okay? This was actually supposed to pop up and pop down. So the immune system, really the cells within the immune system are the warriors. Innate immune cells, those are these cells over here, right, including these in the middle. They're constantly monitoring the environment. So some of them, think of these as like the first warriors on the ground. They're the first soldiers that address a situation. They activate at first contact, and they maintain a generalized immune response. And those are things like natural killer cells and macrophages, and some of these cells over here called granulocytes, right? The adaptive or acquired immune cells can take up to like 7 to 14 days, in fact, to engage, especially if they're working with a novel pathogen, one they've never come across before. It can take, in fact, 14 plus days to get it fully functional. If it's like a pathogen they've come across previously, it's typically 4 to 7 days for it to really get up and running. So it's great because they're far more specific, and they can be very effective in terms of targeting, but it does take them longer to get themselves up and running. So your macrophages go after things like pathogens, natural killer cells, go after infected cells or like mutations in the cells. Your B cells and T cells, they work with antibodies and antigens, and they house the memory of the immune response, and they also target specific cells that have been flagged with these markers that the immune system puts on these cells. Granulocytes are a little bit on the interesting side. These cells like neutrophils and eosinophils and basophils and mast cells, they go after parasitic infestation. So if you've had parasites, these are the cells that attack those and kill them. Interestingly, they're also the cells that are activated with allergic reactivity. The challenge here is that parasites have been a huge factor in human health and wellness for all of humanity, right? And in many places in the world, they still are. However, in some places where we have better water filtration, food safety aspects associated with it, parasite infestation is really low. But in these countries, we actually see greater amounts of allergic reactivity. So we know that those cells are still functional. And again, the concept is maintaining balance here. They're all really important, but we want to make sure that the cells function only when needed to work. I did want to take a moment and talk a little bit about the microbiome. The immune system has co-evolved with a diverse gut ecosystem. And this helps us not only create defenses against pathogens, but our probiotic microflora help us develop tolerance for food, and they help calm the immune system. So as a consequence, the immune system and the gut microflora, they have this mutualistic relationship, and they regulate one another and cooperate and support. The importance of this is mainly because about 60 to 70% of your body's immune cells are found in the intestinal tract. So as we grow, the microflora shapes and develops our immune system. The immune system shapes and develops the composition of the microflora. And the communication and mutual regulation is maintained throughout our life. And it's one of the key underlying factors of a healthy immune response. So having a great like probiotic microbiome will ultimately regulate the maturation and function of the mucosal immune system. If you've got a lot of pathogens present in your intestinal tract, this triggers an inflammatory response, right? Because if you've got these pathogens, the immune system is going to become activated and it's going to secrete those inflammatory cytokines. And then if 70% of your immune system is in this, inflammatory engagement process, your whole body's going to have this hyper-reactive immune response too. So getting the gut balanced is really important. In regards to mushrooms, where this comes into play is that many of our mushrooms, they function as prebiotics for the probiotic microflora. They've demonstrated their ability to feed healthy probiotic microflora and in some cases reduce problematic species. A number have also demonstrated the ability to improve the health of the intestinal mucosal membranes by supporting epithelial cells, so the lining of the intestinal tract, and supporting its integrity. So altogether, you see that mushrooms do have a pretty important impact on your intestinal tract and thereby your whole immune system and its health. We always love to talk about lifestyle options too, right? It's not just about like taking a mushroom supplement. We definitely know that aerobic exercise, weightlifting, these are all really important to support a healthy immune response. And when I say aerobic exercise, this can be 20 minutes of walking a day. Like, so just throw on your mittens and your hat and your earmuffs and go walk for 20 minutes, right? Resistance or weight training, it doesn't mean you have to throw around 100 kilos. Maybe you just have a 2 or 5 kilo dumbbell or something like that that you work with. Any weight resistance is good for bone health, right? Eating nutritionally dense vegetables, berries, and fruits. We're looking for a rainbow of colors for our food to support us and supply us with all those really dense nutrients that are important for health and wellness. And then we always talk about Tai Chi, Qigong, breathing, mindfulness meditation. There are numerous studies that show us that all of these activities support a balanced immune response, but they also help us feel better and function better cognitively. So we definitely want everyone to remember it's not just about a supplement. All of the things that we do in our day-to-day world can have a beneficial impact as long as they're, going in the right direction, right? For sure. All right, let's take a couple of minutes and look at some of the research so these are peer-reviewed journal articles on host defense mushrooms and how they can support your immune system. I'd like to start with a mushroom synergistic formula, and it was published in the International Journal of Medicinal Mushrooms. The Stamets 7 formula is a 7 mushroom blend, equal parts. The blend showed more immune activity as a formula than each of the species individually when measured separately and then averaged for activity. So the combination of mushroom species appears to elicit a wide range of positive responses that result in improved immunological health. And when we take a look at the numbers here, the immune activating strength of host defense mushrooms is really quite powerful. 315% increase in natural killer cell activity, and you'll see that right here, and 3,200% increase in macrophage activity. And when you look at the comparison, you see it's about a 30% increased activity when you use the mushrooms together as when you take them separately. So sometimes the formula is better, right? All right. Many of you may already be familiar with the turkey tail study published in 2012, and this is a human clinical trial. And they studied host defense turkey tail mycelium and fermented rice substrate. It was conducted at the University of Minnesota and Bastyr University. And the cohort included women with breast cancer who had undergone surgery, chemotherapy, and radiation therapy. So after completion of these conventional therapies, all the participants experienced something called lymphopenia, which is a huge drop in your lymphocytes or white blood cells, but also decreased natural killer cell activity. After 2 weeks of use, the groups of women receiving 6 grams or 9 grams of turkey tail had a rebound of immune activity, and it brought their numbers back up to pre-treatment levels. Both had increased lymphocyte and NK natural killer cell activity and showed really nice responses. The kicker here is that it usually takes 9 to 12 months for your immune system to rebound post radiation and chemotherapy together. So with 2 weeks of 6 to 9 grams, they saw the immune systems rebound. After 4 weeks, the groups of women who received 6 or 9 grams of host defense turkey tail experienced an immune system rebound of close to twice that of pretreatment levels. So very powerful engagement of the immune response. But notice that it takes a lot because those immune systems are significantly compromised. So you need enough under those very specific circumstances. There were very few adverse events. There was some mild digestive upset. And what we know is that like 6 to 9 grams of host defense turkey tail, that's a lot, right? Turkey tail is a strong prebiotic. We freeze dry concentrate the material, so you're getting a lot of material in there. Because the prebiotic may in fact positively remodel the gut microflora, it may take a couple of days to a week for your body to kind of get the gist of, oh, things are changing in there. And so the stool is going to change for maybe like 3 to 5 days, maybe 7. All right. Another article published on host defense turkey tail, mycelium, and fermented rice dove down into the mechanics of how it works. The mycelium itself was shown to be very strong at triggering immune cell activation. The fermented substrate, that fermented brown rice, showed robust activity in immune modulation. So with studies like this, and it focused on the whole mushroom and not just like an individual compound like a beta-glucan or a terpene, what you can see is this complex immune activation. That's due to the mycelium and the fermented rice, and it goes beyond these individual compounds. If that might be of consideration if you're knowledgeable about them in terms of mushrooms, right? So what we realized from this research is that the unfermented brown rice that we used as a control showed no immune activity, while the fermented brown rice by the mycelium, right? The mycelium ferments that rice, showed strong immunomodulatory activity. And it goes to just remind us that, you know, fermented foods are really good for us. Like, we forget how amazing these food substances have been for us throughout our history of humanity. And having more of these fermented substances in our daily diet can have a profound impact on our health and longevity. There's a lot of technical stuff here, so let me break it down for you. The first thing I just want to say is that we studied the host defense product, My Community, and again, published this in a peer-reviewed journal. And it looked at a number of cytokines, or those signaling molecules. And what we can see here is that there was a really strong activation. So we saw that My Community had a strong immune activation associated with it. It also had a strong anti-inflammatory activity associated with it. And this is it's the balancing of the immune response, right? We also saw a regenerative activity. So, and this is really critical, right? Because the immune system, part of its job is to help our tissues heal. So we want to make sure that the healing and the regenerative activity of our immune system is also engaged appropriately. And we saw a very strong response there. Now, I'm going to back up here to this antiviral piece and oh my gosh, what does all that mean? So what happens is there are a certain number of messaging molecules, these cytokines, that our immune cells secrete depending upon what it's trying to address. So if it's trying to address bacteria, the immune system is going to work in one particular way. If it's trying to address viruses, it has to go in a different direction, right? Because bacteria are extracellular. They live outside of our cells. Viruses, they attack our cells, they hijack our cells, and then they try and make more copies of themselves. And in that process, they kill our cells, right? While they're making a lot more themselves. So with viral attacks, you have to have what's called an intracellular defense mechanism. And that's what this is here, IFN. And that's supposed to be a Y or a gamma, right? So that's interferon gamma. And this is an intracellular defense mechanism. Well, what we found is that my community had a strong increase in interferon gamma released from the immune cells. So we know that not only does it help our body address bacterial infections, my community helps the body address viral infections. So this is super cool. It's a little bit nerdy. Well, more than a little bit. It's a lot nerdy. It's really geeky, but the data is very strong and very promising to support our immune system on a number of different fronts. Okay, and that's what this is here to tell us. So this is basically a summary of the research. We tested more than my community and turkey tail. We tested our agarikon, our reishi, and we even tested that fermented rice, and we used to control the unfermented rice. And we see like turkey tail and agarikon have strong immune activating. Reishi, turkey tail, and the fermented rice are moderate in terms of their support. Still good, like solid, moderate, and sometimes moderate is better than super strong, right? Defense signals, those pro-inflammatory signals, right? And that can include things like interferon gamma, but also the other signals that tell the immune system to work harder. Unfortunately, they also usually make us feel not so wonderful. They make us feel achy and lethargic, and they make us feel sick, right? So we see agarikon super, super strong. My community, turkey tail, solid. And then reishi and the fermented rice is mild yet significant. Pacifying signals. These are the modulatory actions. Again, agarikon, strong. And look at that, agarikon across the board, strong. Reishi, turkey tail, super strong in terms of pacifying. My community, super strong in pacifying. Same with the fermented rice. And then tissue regeneration. So again, we're seeing this range of activity for the host defense mushroom products that hit every aspect of the immune system to support the full range and make sure that it stays within normal limits. So that's what I want you to take home from all of this technical stuff, that they strongly engage your immune system. They strongly engage the defensive mechanisms that are important. They also keep a lid on it so that it doesn't get out of control, and they support the regenerative activity of our body. All right. So let's talk about some host defense products. We're going to start with turkey tail, and we ran out of agarikon. I apologize. It's being grown right now. People love it so much that we ran out, and we got to wait for it to grow. So we're going to skip that and talk about the stuff that we have. And one of those is turkey tail. And we got plenty of this. And remember, this is also super strong at engaging the immune system, getting those defenses engaged, supporting modulation and tissue regeneration. And again, I also want to remind you of the study that was done by Bastyr University and the University of Minnesota, supporting women who had undergone chemotherapy, radiation, and surgery. And turkey tail strongly supporting the immune rebound for these women, and in just 2 weeks. So under these circumstances, you want to make sure you have enough, right? So 6 grams is a lot, but under those circumstances, you might want to consider that. Under other circumstances where you don't have like chemotherapy and radiation as like damaging your immune response, you may consider like 1 to 2 or maybe 3 grams a day, and that being adequate to engage your immune system really nice and strongly. Yeah. Okay. MicroShield. This is another product that can be really helpful for supporting the immune response. In this is a spray, so it's an immune spray, and it contains agarikon, reishi, chaga, birch polypore, and turkey tail. And we've talked about agarikon a little, and reishi, and turkey tail. And so that's, 3/5 of the formula. This is going to support that oral mucosal immune response. It's pretty good tasting, I have to say. Like, you got cinnamon or peppermint. That cinnamon is like a fireball. The peppermint is like one of those curiously strong peppermint things, right? So notice they can also be used as like a breath freshener too. You want to do 6 sprays 3 to 4 times a day. This is going to strongly engage that immune response, and it's going to coat your oral mucosa. You only spray it in your mouth, right? There is some alcohol in there, so it's going to burn anywhere else. So just spray it in your mouth, and that's really important because your oral mucosa is what we call the primary portal of entry for pathogens. And basically what that means is, like, we're breathing stuff in all the time, right? And so they come into the mouth, and if our immune response in the oral cavity isn't up to snuff, this is where things can get a little dicey for us in the long run. So we want to make sure that oral mucosa is strongly defended, and that MicroShield is going to work really well there. This is going to be great for teachers, medical staff, retail staff. If you're using public transportation, this is for the people that are always in contact with others, right? So turkey tail is great for just getting that immune system up and going, especially under those really challenging circumstances. MicroShield is a great, like, mucosal associated, like what we like to call a shield of protection, right? Stamets 7 we talked a little bit about in terms of the 7 mushrooms engaging the immune system, about 30% stronger than a single mushroom at the same amount. So there's synergy here. But there's also, it's made of 7 mushrooms. So you've got cordyceps and reishi and chaga and maitake and lion's mane and blazei and messima. And these 7 mushrooms together, if you just go down the list here, it basically, they help just about every system of your body. This is a great daily immune support that's also going to get your whole body. So if you're one of those people like I am that have, like, my laundry list as I get older, like in my 50s now, like I'm like, okay, that's not working like it did when I was 20, and not seeing so well, and my back aches, and like I could use some more energy, and like my lungs could do a little better. So I got my laundry list, right? So this is where the Stamets 7 comes in great. And you can take 1 at breakfast and 1 at lunch, or maybe you can take 2 at breakfast and 2 at lunch if you want a little bit extra bolster there, right? And I particularly like that. And then it's going to get that immune support, and it's going to get everything from supporting my lungs and my cardiovascular system. It also supports blood glucose levels already within the normal range. It supports energy and musculature. It supports liver health. Just really, like, everything. A great all-around formula. My community, we touched base on how it strongly engages the immune system, like that moderate and solid immune activation, strong modulatory activity, as well as strong tissue regenerative activity. We know that there's this 17 mushroom formula. There's synergy here. And this is what I like to use when I start to feel like I'm going downhill. The first thing I reach for, in fact, is my liquid, my community, and I'll take a dropper full of that every hour for about 6 to 8 hours, do it for 3 to 4 days, and I'm good to go. some people don't like the liquid because it tastes like alcohol in mushrooms, because that's what it is. It's alcohol in mushrooms, right? But they prefer the capsule. And you can take 2 capsules 3 to 4 times a day to really get that immune system up and running for a short period of time. And then if you want to take like 2 capsules at breakfast and 2 capsules at lunch for a couple weeks after that, that's good too. I really love that my community, for when I'm really feeling like, wow, I gotta get this immune system in the fight right now, so that I don't feel worse and like get taken out of the game for too long, right? All right. Host Defense goes to great lengths to make sure our products are safe and effective. We utilize independent labs with internationally recognized and valid testing methods for identity, composition, purity, and strength. We test all of our products for pesticides, industrial compounds, heavy metals, and microbiological contaminants. Safety is really critical, right? So we know that they work and we know that they're safe. Every product in the Host Defense line is going to support your immune response. So no matter what mushroom you choose or what product you choose, know that it will support your immunity. And then if you decide to like add some of these together with some of the other products, because I know we have some mycobotanicals products, they're half mushrooms. So they will support your balanced immune response as well as support the rest of your system too. And this is a great chart. I think you all have access to this somehow. And if you don't, we'll make sure you do. This can be super helpful for people to figure out, maybe I really do want that reishi after all. Look at all of the things that reishi does. It's really an amazing mushroom, in fact, supporting cardiovascular health, especially like heart health, right? Not just the vessels, but the heart itself. It supports nerve tissue. It supports liver health and kidney health. Just a really wonderful mushroom. I'm also a big fan of lion's mane because that helps me make sure I remember things, sometimes better than others, but you know, we do the best we can, right? But also neurological tissue. So for people that might have some peripheral neurological concerns, lion's mane may be really helpful for that as well. Or cordyceps for people that either want to increase their athletic performance or maybe just support their lung function in and of itself. So take a look at this benefits chart, get to know it, and you might find that one of those products is going to be more helpful for you than another. All right, we're going to wrap up soon and then open up for some questions. I just want to cover a couple things for you. That Host Defense has certified organic status as mushroom growers and as manufacturers, and we have been for over 20 years. We use the whole mushroom, the mycelium, the adult fruit body, and the fermented substrate in different products. We are independently verified as robustly immunologically active and modulatory in human blood and in human clinical trials. We use independent labs to verify our ingredients and perform testings, and we are also vertically integrated and beyond carbon neutral. In fact, we offset greater than 10 times the amount of carbon we emit annually. And then finally, and this is something that is important to us, and other people think it's important too, but you know, Paul Stamets he's the owner of Host Defense Mushrooms, and he's a really cool guy, super smart, an amazing mycologist, author, researcher, and global environmentalist. So yeah. All right. I will do one more review just to kind of like bring it all together. If you want to look at products for prevention, think about these three: reishi, Stamets 7, and MycoShield. So reishi is just great for like just about the whole system. It's a great modulatory mushroom. Stamets 7 is going to strongly get that immune system up and running. and it's going to help every other system of the body. And then the myco shield is going to be for our proactive people that are out in front of a lot of people, right? Because you're going to spray it in your mouth, 6 sprays 3 to 4 times a day, and you're going to, just get that mucosal immune tissue activated. For when you really need to like kick it into gear, we've got a turkey tail for right now and my community. So your turkey tail is going to be like when you're really like, my immune system is compromised and I need to get it into action. That's when you're going to really consider turkey tail. My community, I like when I'm feeling like I'm starting to feel like really sick and I want to get my immune system engaged yet balanced. So you've got your 3 preventative up here, reishi, Stamets 7, and myco shield, and then turkey tail and my community for when you really need to like get that system going. All righty. I want to thank you guys all for like hanging in there and sticking in there with me. Hopefully we'll have some opportunity to bring some questions on board. And yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks, Jerry. Such a great balance of the science and the practical knowledge. That's why you're such a great presenter. So thank you for all of that. We do have a few questions to address that have come up. One of the first ones was about kind of the suggested pattern of taking any mushroom product. And with the variety of products, is it something that you could work into your routine of supplementation regularly or simply in response to when you're feeling an imbalance?
Oh yeah, so like that Stamets 7, just take it every day. Might be amazing. Like I love that stuff. I think it's a great basic formula that's going to get everything. You can consider just doing the reishi if you want like a more modulatory response. So so reishi is the mushroom I suggest for people if they have like a lot of allergic reactivity, maybe autoimmune conditions. I start them off on just like 1 or 2 capsules of reishi, and we see how they do. And usually it has a profound impact on regulating the immune response. So those are 2 great ones that you can just go for it. You can take them every day.
Perfect. Yeah, that's a great answer. So similarly on the product side, there was a question around she said chaga or really any mushroom. How can we be sure when it says we're buying it in a powder form, like chaga powder, is authentic versus laced with fillers? And I think it speaks to the kind of last slide you were talking to there about the verification and review.
Right. Yeah. So like finding a reputable like company is really important. Yeah. It's kind of one of those things you have to do some research on the different companies. And make sure that they're actually they're testing their mushrooms. And this is like one of the things, like we've been doing this for 20 plus years. And so like we have this really strong testing procedure that goes into all of our products. And it's all done by independent labs. So like we know that the response is back from them, that, they'll test it and then they'll retest it to make sure that that their test results were accurate, and then they send us the results, and that's how we know that we got what we got.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
A couple questions around products being safe for children or pets. Can you speak to that? Yeah,
for sure. So with kids, I usually stick with the edible mushrooms, like lion's mane is an edible mushroom. Maitake is an edible mushroom. Those are 2 great mushrooms that I think kids love. They respond really well to. If it's in a capsule, they're not going to taste it anyway. So, but if you even open it up, they're very mild in their flavor. You can kind of mix it in anything and they're pretty good. We suggest 2 years and older. Up till about 1.5 years, you've got a developing digestive tract. Mushrooms are pretty complex. We kind of like to just, let them establish it. That's how you establish tolerance, a little bit at a time here and there. And after the next 3 months, you add the next layer, right? So at about 2 years, I think mushrooms are great. And you should be fine. Think about the amount. Like you're not going to give a 2-year-old the same you'd give a 25-year-old, right? So like you only need like a half a capsule with a 2-year-old, if that much, right? You open it up, throw it in there, whatever, give it to them, they're good to go.
Perfect.
Animals. So
Yeah.
here's the technical term. Technically, these are for human consumption only. Now, do you give your pets things that are for human consumption? My perspective is every dog I've had has had their mushrooms while I had mine. So I would get my host defense mushrooms, they would get theirs. Back then it was fungi perfecti. I used to, like, we're talking like I've been buying from them for 20 years. I've used them in my clinical practice. So I would just buy them by the kilo from fungi perfecti, and I would just dole them out. Like I would literally send my patients home with like 100 grams at a time, and I would just like teaspoon here, a teaspoon there, and the dogs, like my dogs, loved them. They loved them. They thrived on them. But technically, they're for human consumption only.
Okay, thank you. A couple more questions about when they should be taken, the frequency of how they're taken. So should they be consumed necessarily on an empty stomach or with food? Is that important?
I like to take my mushrooms on an empty stomach. I feel them a little bit more. You can take them with food if you're one of those people that's just like, I take my stuff with food. Knock yourself out, take it with food. It is food. You're fine with that. You want to take them in the earlier part of your day. All mushrooms over time build constitutional energy. Cordyceps is pretty immediate. So if you were to take that at like 6 or 7 o'clock at night, you've got about 4 or 5 hours that you're going to be energized with. So not sure that's the best time to do that unless you're driving late at night, and then you can consider it. But really take them at breakfast and at lunch. It'll power you through your day.
Great. And someone's mentioned specifically lion's mane. They've been taking it every day. Is that okay? Or should they be taking breaks?
Every day. Every day. It's one of my, like, every day. Because the lion's mane, remember, it's food. And our bodies are constantly burning through energy, especially our neurological tissue, right? So like we're not taking a break with our neurological tissue. It's powering our heart every single second. It's powering our digestive tract. It's powering our musculature. It doesn't get a break. So it's still burning through nutrients. So if we take that lion's mane every day, it's going to provide some of those nutrients that help the neurological tissue repair itself.
Perfect. Someone's just asking, Barb, if we could see the screen with all of the products back on it. And I'm thinking it was maybe this one.
Sure. Yeah.
There we go. We'll see. Hopefully that's the one you were looking for, Barb. And
just remember that right now, y'all don't have a Garicon. So sorry about that, but we ran out too. It happens. Like we're kind of in this strange place in the world right now. Right?
Popular item. Yeah, it happens.
It is growing, and we're hoping to have it up to you hopefully within the next couple of months. We'll see. We'll have to see how the grow out goes.
That's great. Okay, Barb says perfect. Thank you. So this was the right slide for her. There are a couple questions about interference with medications.
Sure.
It just often, I think we recommend talking to their health practitioner, but we see here, do they interfere with medications, and do they absorb better in conjunction with a particular vitamin combination?
All right. So in terms of absorption, no. They're food, so really, and they don't technically absorb the way you think of most things. Really, what we're doing is we're triggering the immune system that's right at the edge of the intestinal tract. So all of those compounds get absorbed. They work with the intestinal tract, and then they don't really go too much further, except for some of those nutrients that things like neurological tissue support. But immunologically, that impact is right at the border of the intestinal tract and the lumen. So the way we've processed the mushrooms, the stuff that you want uptaken gets uptaken. The stuff that doesn't stays right in the intestinal tract where it's supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
And so other nutrients in terms of increasing absorption, not really that important or necessary. In terms of, oh gosh, see, my lion's mane just gave out. What was the first part of that question?
Oh, if about contradictions with.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
contradictory like medication that you don't want to take it with.
Mm.
So most of the mushrooms are super, super safe. They're like lion's mane has no known interaction with any kind of medication. Maitake can sometimes make insulin work better, so you need less of it because it'll drop your blood sugars a little bit more. Stamets 7 can sometimes make that do that to some people too. So if you're on insulin, you want to be careful. You want to look at your bloods. You want to make sure your blood sugar isn't dropping too much, right? Because if you still want the benefit of the immune response, what you may end up doing is working with your practitioner to adjust the amount of insulin that you take on a daily basis, which is also not a bad thing, right? So less insulin over the long term is actually better for your body. Mm-hmm. The other thing that you always want to take into consideration is blood thinners. Mm-hmm. In human clinical trials, reishi had no impact on blood clotting parameters. However, in vitro, like a mechanism of action study, they did find that reishi had an impact on blood clotting factors. But they didn't see it in humans, like when it was actually being done in humans. So what we ask people to do is err on the side of caution. Yeah. Start with 0.5 gram for, like, if you're on blood thinners, just start on 1 capsule, use it for a month and see how your body does. If you're not having any bruising or any problems, then you can consider taking a 2nd capsule. That'll give you 1 gram. We don't really suggest you take more than 1 gram if you're on blood thinners. But if you want to take the Stamets 7 or the MyCommunity or the MycoShield, you wouldn't get 1 gram of reishi in any of those products. So you can take 1 gram or 2 of those products without a problem.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. There was a question about where the mushrooms are grown, and Jennifer's already piped in to let us know that they're close. They're the Olympic Peninsula.
Yep.
And so not quite in Canada, though, right?
Not quite, no. Yeah. Pretty close. Yeah. Almost as close as you can get, though, right?
And there was a question about the format they come in. And so if they're capsules only, or if there's liquid or powder, so that they could be mixed in with like a coffee or other foods.
We do have capsules and we have liquids. I don't think y'all have powders up there yet, do you? Nope. So just capsules and liquids. You can open up those capsules if you want, if you're not a capsule person. You can put the liquids in warm water. I don't suggest hot water. There's some really cool compounds in there. If you put it in boiling water, you may denature them a little. So yeah, warm water is fine. Or capsule in your food, or just take the capsule, open it up, whatever.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Just some questions that have come up about the presentation. Yes, we are recording it and it will be emailed to everybody tomorrow. Cool. And we do have a thank you coupon from Host Defense for $4 off any product in store at Nature's Fair Markets. And so once again, thank you to Host Defense for partnering with us on this event. And thank you for your time tonight, Jerry. It was a really great presentation.
I'm glad. It's always great to work with you all. It's, we'll have to wait till next year to come back up and see you all again. But and this is a good go-between, right?
It is. It's the second best option, that's for sure.
For sure.
Wonderful. We'll have a good evening, and thank you again, everyone, for joining us. And we'll be back again next Wednesday night with our final webinar of the year. So hope to see you there.
Take care.
Good night.